Okay, welcome everyone to season 2 of the CTAT Roundtables. And this is our first roundtable of the 21-22 school year. It's great to see everyone. And I know that there are some lively topics that are coming up. I've had several people email me throughout the past couple of weeks wanting topics to be added to the roundtable discussion. And that's a great way to get the topics on here, and we can make sure we get those discussed. So anytime that you want a topic added to the roundtable discussion, just to make sure that we get it on there, shoot me an email or a text and make sure we get it on there. But it sure is great to see everyone. Thursdays are the days that I take baths, and that's for you guys, because I want to be clean for roundtable and next gen. Okay, so we'll get on to the updates. Can everyone see the screen? Thumbs up. Okay, like I was saying earlier, welcome to the September 2nd CTAT Statewide CTE Roundtable. If you remember last year, we called these the COVID response roundtables, but because the topics got so varied, even though if it's necessary, we'll address COVID response, but it became a tool for leaders like yourselves to visit about all the topics pertinent to career and technical education in the state. And that's my record button. I already remembered to record. And also we want to notify you that these Zoom-based sessions are hosted by CTAT, and they're often posted on public medium platforms such as YouTube. If you do not wish to have your picture shared or displayed to public view, you may want to go ahead and turn your video off now and leave it off. We can still hear you and see it in chat. So if you don't want your video displayed, everybody on here is so handsome and beautiful, though I know that we all want our pictures put on YouTube. But otherwise, unless you turn it off, participation here serves as consent to your picture via Zoom frame being posted on media platforms such as YouTube. And so we go right into the breaking news. We just got completed our first CTAT summer conference in a while, and it went fabulous. I can't thank you enough for attending in conference, in person and virtual. We probably had about 20% attend virtually, and that went fantastic, especially as far as them getting the information. We had a dynamic opening session, and the guy, he had the phrase, somebody help me, well, you guys remember, and all of the, had the professional and meaningful presentations. They were all terrific. Marty's legislative update, which is always a hit of the conference, was fantastic and really pertinent because we were coming off such an active session. The TEA update didn't have a lot of new stuff, but it's always good to have them there. And of course, our partners at the Texas Education Agency, we really appreciate them coming and doing updates. And of course, that's also one of the highlights of the convention. Also, our members were able to receive awards and recognition for our CTAT Teacher of the Year, Administrator of the Year, Guidance of the Year, and all of the awards and recognition that went off terrific. Thank you, Meredith, for doing such a great job there, and Lindsay, everyone that handles the awards program. And also, we had the annual CTAT social event that was at the distillery on Wednesday night. That was terrific. And I know that many of you didn't get to make it to the social, so I took the liberty, you know, memories are timeless treasures of the heart, and that usually creates a lot of memories. So I thought I'd show everyone that couldn't make the CTAT social that night, I'd show you pictures of what went on. It happened at the Acre Distillery, which was right across the street from the convention center. So the location was great. Folks just wandered over there about 5:30. And of course, you can see a group of us there sitting as professionals. You know, it was real nice, real tame, great. And there it is actually inside the distillery. You can see they had the different areas set up where you could go to either place and had nice seating for everyone. And then the band showed up. When Notice Day went going, it got a little rowdier. the Gulf Coast people came in, and then they really liked it a lot. And then when the Area 2 folks come in, it really got out of hand. And then it all went to the piano bar after that, and it was just really out of control. But those were some great pictures and great memories from the CTAT social. We really appreciate you guys being there. And so when we move into news, one of the things that we always talk about is the COVID guidance. And I looked, the latest updates are August 19th, and usually they update every Tuesday. But the biggest thing that probably is being discussed in schools right now is remote conferencing. And for students that are out for for 10 days on COVID protocol, they really mention it for any illness, but they can do remote conferencing. And remote conferencing basically is that the student is logged in live and that the teacher has to be there. And it cannot exceed more than 20 days. And so remote conferencing, really, I don't think it's going to pertain a lot to CTE, because you can't use the teacher that's in the room and you have to use a certified teacher. So I don't see a lot of districts utilizing, even though some may, you can talk about that in Roundtable if you want, utilize remote conferencing for a lot of CTE classes. But remote conferencing gives them a chance to be virtually present. And so some schools, especially at the elementary levels, that might be a saving grace for attendance. Another thing in the CTAT updates is in House Bill 45 in the overview. That's where you have to do the retention and you have to do the tutoring, basically is what it means in simple old time terms. And one of the questions that comes from the FAQ, the frequently asked questions, how do we find time to provide the required tutoring to students if we can't take them out of the regular session? Where can I get support in this area? Well, each school district is going to be different in terms of building in time, but here's what the statute says, is that students should not be removed from career and technology or career and technical education. And so it has very specifically that you cannot remove them from these specific mandatory curriculum classes. So the districts are going to have to find time other than pulling them out of their career tech classes. And that was one of the topics that came up at the roundtable at conference, which is why I wanted to make sure that we covered it here. Other updates, make sure that you go in there. For those of you that are fairly new to your position, and this may be your first roundtable, go to that TEA listservs and make sure that you sign up for the updates. I always make sure that I sign up for 3. I sign up for the career tech, I sign up for the to administrator address, which goes to the superintendents, and I sign up for the accountability, because I want to be as up to date as possible. But you'll put your email in, then it'll give you a list of 50 topics to choose from, and make sure that you choose those 3, but especially career tech, because you'll get a monthly newsletter or listserv update from TEA. Ctap Programming, we're going to continue. Many of you I saw on here were members of the Next Gen administrators. We're going to have the second cohort, which will start September 16th. And we'll be sending out in the Ctat chat on Monday or Tuesday, whenever we that email goes out, but it'll also have the links to the Next Gen registration. And I'm sending that out also to all of the new administrators that attended new admin conference. And it's fantastic if you're less than 3 to 5 years, or if you're in a coordinator's or specialist role and you're not a director, that's who Next Gen's aimed at, not necessarily the old pros. Also, of course, we're doing what we do now are the monthly roundtables. We have the Winter 22 conference. And of course, we're still doing program evaluations. September's all taken up, but we're taking October, November. If anyone needs a program evaluation, you can shoot me an email. And of course, I'll send you the quote. And of course, most people use their Perkins funds to do that. Also, when we were at conference, a member came up and asked about the possibility of sharing documents for the members to have a generic place where they can put documents in and send it back and forth. And keeping up with a Google site from CTAT is kind of a tricky proposition, because we want to make sure that everything in there is up to date and accurate. And sometimes when we have a giant folder, it's just impossible to keep track, because stuff changes. You know, something that's right in September may not be right in January. So it's hard to check all those documents that people would put in there. And so I was visiting with Lindsay, who is a guru on all that. And one of the things that she pointed out was that the Connect CTAT form already does this for us. And so this is just the general CTAT form. And if you can see my mouse, I'm pointing to the library. And so when you or one of the other members shares a document on the Connect CTAT form, that automatically goes into the library. Robin, my arrow didn't point to library, but it did at one time. And so if you'll click on that library tab, and then you'll go down and it'll pull up any document that's ever been posted in Connect CTAT. So probably step one is what I'm going to do, instead of making a big Google folder, is probably just try to do a better job educating members on where that library tab is, and use that for a little while and see if that fits members' expectations. And another good thing about it is you can do a search in there. So if you're wanting a policies handbook, you could do a search for policy, and Pflugerville's is going to come up. Also, anything that we do publicly, such as a roundtable, we always post that on the YouTube channel. So make sure that you go to the CTAT YouTube channel and hit that subscribe button so it'll ding you whenever we post a new video. Also, the CTAT Winter Conference is February 7th through the 9th, and it's not too early to start talking about what presentations that you want to do for the conference, and I'll try to post that into the chat once we get going. But go ahead, and you guys that are on these roundtables, you're the leaders, you're the experts, and you really need to be sharing your wisdom and your best practices with other members in CTAT. So we really want some great presentations, and we want to keep great presentations coming like we've had in the past. As far as the accountability ratings, Donna's going to speak to this in just a second. But this is what's being discussed. This is not final. And I repeat, this is not final, but this was a discussion point in the July meeting that Donna and the APAC group had, and she's going to talk about this in just a second. But what it said is if you completed a program of study and you earned an industry-based certification connected to that program of study, you would get a full point. And so you had to do both. And also, as part of a transition, there would be a half a point awarded for completing a program of study associated with an IBC, and then for completing IBC associated with the program of study, but not both. And Donna was saying that this was just, that was only going to be a temporary measure. And so Donna's going to come back and talk about, well, Donna, do you mind while I have that slide pulled up?
Oh, yeah. So and those of you that, I'm on the APAC committee, and those of you that know me, when that I was in, actually didn't get to go to the TEA website because the update, because I was in that. And those of you that know me, I'm a little passionate, and my passion exploded, and I had to even apologize for how excited I got when it was over. But if you'll go back a couple of slides, David, to the committee put that first proposal out. It is not going to be, I don't think I'm not worried about that one anymore. I am worried what might happen though. So right now, those two proposals that were for half a point were for kind of like orphaned classes that didn't have anything. So that first one says without an industry certification. Those were orphaned, maybe programs of study that didn't have a certification. Like, for example, before we got the certification for law and criminal justice, that would have been an example of that. And then the other is industry-based certifications that weren't attached to. So that was just kind of like some of the questions they got. So we are at this point, I don't think that's going to happen. Our next meeting is coming up in September, and it is on September 27th. And if you could, I am got a survey out there and talking just so that I can take them information back from CTAT, and it'll be CTAT and plus anyone else that you want to fill it out. The last I looked, we had 95 responses, which I'm thrilled to death about. There's some great comments about about things that we believe, like, for example, how can you just take one remedial class and get a point, and you have to do 4 courses plus take a certification. So there's a lot of things out there that we really need to talk about. Great points being brought up by our members. Please share that. I would love to have 150 is kind of my goal. September the 7th is when I'm going to close that down. I've already talked to the APAC committee. They are expecting, and they said they were looking forward to seeing the survey. So I will send that to them. Please send it to your teachers. I mean, it would really be, if you want to see me really, really small, 200 would really make me small. The bigger the survey, the more power it has. So share it with your superintendents, share it with anyone. And even if you don't think they will maybe agree exactly with us, the more the better. The more you put out there, whether we agree with each other or not, the more opinions we have, more thoughts we have, the better chance of us winning that battle. I am pretty stubborn, and I will tell you that I'm going to fight this with them. It's going to be, we've got to do something that's fair. So when you think about it, what will happen? I mean, and I'm not going to give you just thoughts in your mind, as some of the things that have come across, is 4 years of a class equal to like 4 years equal to 4 classes. You know, if we do the program of studying, get that as a full point, what will that do to certifications of 4 years? And we still get those certifications. So, you know, are those equal? Are they not equal? Do they need to be combined? Are there, and as you know, certifications are not all created equal. Some have more impact on your career than others. And so I think that is I think we're a long way from solving this. But definitely the intent of the law was not to combine those two things. So please send me your thoughts. If you answer the survey and you want to send me additional thoughts, please do. I will be your voice in that committee. And like I said, I don't really have a problem getting upset. Most of you know me that I yell. So I actually did raise my voice and then apologized when I got through. So that's that.
Donna, thank you so much for serving on that committee. And just so the members know, I talked to Mr. Delgado, who's kind of the ramrod of that accountability, trying to get the best information before the last CTAT chat we sent out. And Donna's voice on that committee made a difference. And he told me that directly. He said she made a passionate case for it, and it was a good case. And so that's why they're looking at rechanging that. So thank you so much for serving on that committee. And I think that Robin has already put a link to the survey in the chat box. Special topics. Ryan Contreras emailed me about a week ago, and he was asking, they are evidently starting a school business or a school store. It could be cosmetology, it could be a greenhouse. School businesses are always, and so one of the topics that he wants to bring up is, how do you handle your school businesses, whether it's a school store, an auto shop, a greenhouse, a cosmetology lab. And I do know, Ryan, that there's 2 accounts, and a lot of people talked about it on Connect CTAT. There's a 461 and an 865. And the major difference between those is that a 461 is controlled by the teacher, can do a purchase order, and an 865 is controlled by the student. So if you spend money out of an 865 account, you have to have minutes where the students voted for that. So Ryan, when we get on there, that may be a good jumping off point for discussion on school businesses. And Ryan, we will get to that as soon as we get back into the gallery. Robin, you have some legislative information or that you want to share?
Well, you may have heard by now that during special session, the lawmakers passed Senate Bill 15, which funds remote instruction, just like we had in the last school year. It's got the same limitation in that it can only apply to 10% of your student population unless you get a waiver or there is a public health emergency. So there is no limitation on the number of instructional days, however. So I just put a link to the bill that passed this week in the chat box.
Thanks, Robin. Any other legislative? We good on that?
Well, I can tell you, just give you a heads up. The vocational diploma bill that was introduced last session is likely to make a return. And so CTAT is working on a counter proposal, and we look forward to getting that out to our members for feedback once ready.
So Robin, this is Richard in Dallas, and I heard through the grapevine that there's a bill right now on the Senate floor that will impact work-based learning practicums. Do you know anything about that?
I had not heard that. Let me check on that for you.
Thank you.
Richard, do you have a number or anything?
No, I don't. It was a text from one of my team members that happens to be in Austin today. I'll see what I can find out. If I can find anything out, I'll send it to you.
Robin, if you need help on that vocational diploma, call me.
Yes, ma'am, I will. Thank you.
So Robin.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and move on, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen and get back in the gallery view where we can see everyone. And was someone about to ask Robin a question there that echoed? Okay, very good. Ryan, you're on here. Do you want to go ahead and ask, kind of put more specific terms about the school businesses that you were wondering about?
Yeah, so absolutely. We're trying to get one started, and we were trying to get a starting fund. And I know some districts, in my last district, I was able to borrow from the general fund as a temporary, moving into a 461. And then once that gets above and move it back into the general fund. My business office said that wasn't able, and we actually borrowed from another activity account. Did anybody have any similar issues with that?
We did the same thing. I think I responded to your in that chat that we did like a fundraiser, and the district approves a fundraiser and basically fronts the cost of the fundraiser. And once you pay that back, I think the one thing we have learned is that with that student fund, we make sure that students sign those. We have minutes. We actually have our internal auditor come over and walk the kids through what an audit looks like. Not that it's real serious, but we want them to see the importance of that. In our school store, and also we have a cafe. I do not use any CTE money for those. They have to use it as a fundraiser, and they have to do it that way. I know that a lot of districts sell, they may have a store that they have items created with CTE funds and they sell them. That's something that I stray away from just because of legality of that. It took us forever to get us, our district did not believe in using credit cards for student purchases. That was kind of a philosophical thing, but we've worked through that and went through TASB and actually got a TASB agreed upon square. But we definitely, we have a store and then the cafe, but they must earn their money. I used some CTE money for a computer for the store and then the equipment they might use, but that's the learning part. But I didn't do any merchandise for sale.
No, I agree with everything. Yeah, I did purchase I don't know that there was a question in the chat as far as a POS system. We went with My School Bucks for the POS system. We're running it off an iPad and a cash register, and they'll be doing the inventory off of that. That was purchased with $199. But like you said, that's for learning purposes. But merchandise that gets resold, no, that we wouldn't use the $199 out of that.
We have a we have a coffee shop in Marble Falls, and 2 years ago at Winter Conference, we showed it off, but now our construction is done and we're no longer running a coffee shop out of a concession stand. We have a full coffee shop in our new commons area, but we use Square. We have a Square and it's tied directly to a bank account here in Marble Falls. It's the BPA, it's our BPA bank account. And so, because the BPA organization or the business practicum is the one that runs our coffee shop. To answer your question about getting started, the way that we got started on it, we could not use budgeted money to start that. So we ended up getting a grant. We applied for several grants and got about $10,000 to buy the espresso and the frappe. And I don't know all the equipment really. We used it to buy all the equipment to get the coffee shop up and running.
Gotcha. Yeah, we're using, you said BPA, we're going to be using a DECA in for the student store.
With the Square, are y'all running into any issues where you're having to use a social security number or anything like that? Because I've seen a lot of questions about that in other discussions. And that's something I want to stay away from, is tying anyone personally to any student funds. And
No.
so go
Well,
ahead.
I'm sorry, Vonnie, I didn't mean to break you off.
Okay.
That we set up the Square to an account in the district office. And so the Square is actually run through the district, and that's part of what TASB had you do, is that, TASB has a way of doing that, and they have companies that know the Square is being used for educational purposes. So if you contact TASB, they can give you a list, and we got a list from TASB, and I wasn't a part of that because that's a lot of work, but they went in and they actually had demos from all these different companies that TASB approved that could be set up and not having to use anyone's social security number. You don't, obviously, it would be your office, but when you throw TASB around to business offices, that tends to make them feel better. So I would go to TASB recommended Squares.
Okay, thanks.
We did the same thing last year. We were starting a school store through DECA, through my entrepreneurship class, entrepreneurship 2. And then we moved into a practicum and the practicum was going to be admission only. And that could bring in other students from other courses, from other, like culinary, or whether it was business, even our graphic arts, our graphic design. If they needed that upper level, then they would also be learning how to run a store and do the graphics and do things like that. I left. We just got it started last spring. I'm not there. There's not a DECA chapter, so I'm not sure what they're doing with it, but we also were going to apply for the SBE and go that way. I had my students, it all actually started with an idea from DECA competition. 2 years in a row, students took competition to state and wanted to start a school store. So we knew there was an interest in our district. So the kids took the second competitive event last year. They took it and tweaked the business plan, and they presented it to our CFO and our superintendent and our principal. And then as people kind of started hearing what they were planning to do and going through SBE, trying to go through the SBE certification, we really, and our food services director, we really got a lot of support that way, because they saw the kids were really learning about business and how to funnel that money through a school district, coffee shop and gift shop. Some of our things were purchased through CTE funds, the heat press, the silhouette, the things to do the gift shop. And you're welcome to email me and ask me anything if you have any other questions. Some things were school funds, and it was funded from an activity account. And then it was going to go through a DECA activity fund. So, and we were also going to sell other products that other classes were selling. So if you're interested, email me.
We did get, and so like on that fund, one of the things we Ours is through Skills USA is the group, the organization that we do ours through. And they were actually donated a trailer so they could have a school truck at the ball games, like a school store at the football games and in other places. And we actually, when they donated, we had them donated to CTE rather than Skills USA, because technically then the students would own the trailer if you put it in their funds. So you have to be careful about stuff like that. You don't want the kids selling a trainer in both that they sell it. So, yeah.
All right, fantastic responses. Ryan, I would kind of wrap it up with saying this. I think the bulk of the districts will use a 461 account instead of 865 because of the flexibility that you have with it. And also you may ask your business person if there's any defunct 46 money sitting around. We used an old defunct marketing account to start culinary at one time. So you may ask him if there's any just defunct 461 money laying around that you could use to prime the pump with what you're starting. Well, thank you guys so much for that topic. And let's see, someone asked a minute ago, Ms. Gonzalez, I think, asked if you could use 199 money to pay for student dues. And my response to that, Greg, interested what you may say, what you're telling people in your region, but if you're paying for affiliation fees where you're paying basically for the school to be affiliated, you can use 199 or 244 money. But if you're paying one student's dues, where does that come to play? Does anyone know, Greg? What do you tell them there?
Well, it's interesting that we're having this conversation because Mr. Barnes and I were just discussing this yesterday. And I think right now my answer is going to be a non-answer because there are some questions about exactly, how using federal funds, especially with those affiliation fees might play out. So that's a non-answer and I apologize. So I'm going to be listening to see what the other participants in this session are going to have to say about it.
Anyone have any comments on paying dues with 199 money? Does your district do anything different than what we've discussed?
Hey, Mark, this is Jennifer Edenfield.
Yes, ma'am.
I actually put this topic up on the CTAP forum, I think last year or the year before. And some people said that the issue, and they kind of responded to me personally, that the issue with paying for individual students out of a 199
twice in one day.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Ms. Edenfield. Go ahead.
Is that if you pay for one individual student, then you're going to be held responsible to then turn around and do it for them all. And so, because you can get into the real, game of, are you playing favoritism if you pay for FFA kids, but you're not paying for BPA kids? So I would just say on the affiliation side of things, because you can use 244, your Perkins money for it, I would, if you choose to pay affiliation fees, I guess I would probably recommend that you did that out of 244, because then you can turn around and continue to do that process for years to come. But that's my personal, but I had thrown that out there just because I know I had a teacher come and ask me about paying for students within a particular student organization that they could not even get the minimum number that they needed to be able to have the chapter. So I used one of those 461 accounts that somehow or another got forgotten about that you were just talking about. And so used that, and I converted that over to CTE. And so I use that money now when I have an organization that needs maybe one or two individual, and I use that 461 account to pay for those. So I'm not playing favoritism with anybody.
Thank you, Ms. Edenfield. That's a good reply. And I think, Ms. Gonzalez, you'll kind of find that'll be the consensus reply around the group here.
We use 244 244 funds mark on ours for the affiliation fees. One of the things I would suggest that they be cautious about, if they used 199 last year, they don't need to supplant that though. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
If I can just chime in, my kind of feeling about it is our student organizations need a variety of levels of support. And perhaps there are other ways, perhaps supporting some of the travel and some of the other things, it might be an easier way to support them rather than the dues. And then, that's just my thought. I don't really pay, we let them pay the dues, but then when they need support for trips and things like that, that's where I find my best place to start.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think there is flexibility there depending on the needs of the district. If you have a well-established program like Waco, you're going to have different needs than a brand new school opening up, of course. Okay. Robin, did you have something that you got a text from that Richard was asking about?
Yeah, I just put it in the chat box. According to our source live at the Capitol, the House just loosely discussed the idea of providing course credit for internships for students. There's no bill tied to it. They were just talking about how great it would be if they could get credit for internships for social studies, for working at the Capitol, for example.
Thank you for checking into that.
You bet.
Boy, Richard, that's good legislative service there.
No doubt. You need to put her on the payroll.
That's what I'm talking about. Get her a Whataburger or something. Fantastic. Who has the another topic? Anyone have any comments on the A through F or anything? This is your guys' discussion forum. So whatever you have, now's the time.
I do regarding the accountability. I'm just wondering, Donna, do we have like a date, a projected date when they would make those decisions? I mean, because we're in accountability right now. So.
Donna, didn't you tell?
Yeah, the accountability is as to when they're doing a whole revamp on the accountability. It's called a reboot. So that's all in discussion. So as we look at this, you're looking probably it wouldn't be this year's accountability that this would affect. It'd probably be next year's, because what will happen is they will come up with a final proposal, then that'll have to go to the commissioner, the governor will have to look at it. They'll probably put it out for public comment, and then it would be a part of it. So it is, because what happens is they pass the bill that says they have to give us credit for a completion of a program of study, but the legislation did not tell us what that looks like. And so we're in the phase now, which is interpreting the bill and how it will actually apply. So there's several steps, and I will know more after September when we meet this month, and I'll make sure I'll give you an update in that. But you're looking at a couple of years for this would, I mean, actually literally, because you're kind of running a year behind or so in accountability. So everything with that's a big reboot. And so you can go to accountability and all the PowerPoints. Now, what threw us off this time was they had posted the PowerPoint in the agenda, and there was no slides about this particular portion. And then somewhere in the middle of the night, they went in and posted a new PowerPoint. So that's why I was completely thrown off when I walked into the meeting. So if you follow that, all that has to be open to the public, so you can go in and see that. Minutes are posted. If you're not aware, there is that APAC. You just look up APAC on the website on TEA, and all of it's there. All the minutes are there. I hope they didn't put my total rant in the minutes, but it would be there. And then follow along, but please make sure. And by the way, after just checked, we're up to 107. So we're getting closer to my 150. Sure, that was some of your teachers too. I mean, we really need as much input as we can. So thank you. But no, we're a little ways out from that.
Okay,
You're-
so we're basically following everything that's currently in for this 21-22 cohort. We're still following the same indicators.
Yes, ma'am, that is correct. The only thing that they're really steering away from, as far as we're concerned, would be if you're working on the military readiness. That's a big mess. They kept promising that we were going to get that information. That's pretty much on hold. They're going to have to do something for that. And right now, that is just the best thing is not to do military readiness. That's advice I would give you. That's the advice TEA is giving us too.
Johnny, you're going to end up with a viral YouTube video on one of your APAC grants.
Well, I would be embarrassed. I'm so glad I warned my superintendent that if someone called her that their CT person had been ranting, but it's okay.
Miss Pro, that Mr. Delgado, he said that it would be February would be the first, would be the best case scenario. And then, and then it apply to your graduates, but just your graduates of 2022. So then, you're a year backwards, like what Donna was saying there too.
That's the earliest I see it happening. Y'all, I know that you're like us. We've got that CCMR person in there constantly checking every little possible way. At this point, we are not doing anything in our accountability for our district with the program of study. We are pushing forward on certifications and all the other ways they can get that CCMR point. And then should it happen and something we get gifted, it'll be kind of like the icing on the cake to push us over the top. So until that legislation, that would be my advice to you is don't count it because we don't know how it's going to count. Currently certifications are 1 point. So that's where we're focusing our attention.
Our awards committee chairman, Meredith Canonico, who has an angel of a husband, has a question about teacher certification. Meredith?
Yes. So I'm at a charter school and we have a teacher who we were going to do the local certification for. And when we sent in the form, they were like, this isn't eligible for charter schools. So the teacher is teaching human growth and development, and she has a degree in child development. And since we aren't eligible to do the SDTP form, does anybody have any other ideas of how we can allow her to teach that class and receive funding?
I would recommend reaching out to Yes 13, Education Center 13, Amy Walsh, and she'll be able to help you. I'll put her email in the chat.
Thank you.
Her phone number.
We are not a district of innovation, unfortunately, because that was my other thought.
Can't you still locally certify her?
Well, that was what I thought, but my HR department is telling me that she's going to get uncertified teacher pay, but I thought we could, as a district, do that.
What's her degree in? What's her degree in?
Child development from Baylor.
And she's teaching child development. She has no teaching certification?
She's in a program right now, but she doesn't have a teacher cert.
So she should be getting certified in family consumer science, but since she's in a program, they should be able to give her an intern certificate.
There's something wrong there. She's in a program. I have lots of teachers like that. They're in programs. And once they have to pass a test to get in the program. So there shouldn't be any, you need to check with your program and have them call HR because they should be able to get her in, and she should.
Well, that's what we've been trying to do, but it's just been not easy. So
I would call the program she started that's doing her certification. Let them fight that battle, and you just step aside. That's really something they should fight for you. That's how they get their money. Let them fight it.
Meredith.
Right. Some of those programs are really bad. I've had teachers go to some of them and then they turn around and go to Region 13. So you have to be really careful with some of them.
Yeah,
I agree.
That's why she's ineligible for a district permit, because she's already started an alternative certification, not because you're a charter school, I think.
That's correct.
Depends on if she's tested or not.
Well, and they told me that charter schools weren't eligible for it.
I didn't see that. I pulled up that website as we were talking and I put
Yeah.
it in the link there. So I didn't see that.
Okay.
So quick question, does your charter require your teachers to be certified?
We prefer it, but my wondering on all this is more funding than anything else. Like if we locally certify her, we can still get the funding, right? Or no?
Yeah, on a district permit, yes.
On a district permit. Okay.
Did you look her up and see if the education program she's in have her registered as a probation or intern certificate? Did you look her up?
Well, so when she first started her program, she started doing like EC through 6, and she was an aide for us. And we were talking one day and she was like, yeah, I have a major, with child development. And I was like, did they not tell you can get certified in that as well? And she was like, no. And so right now, as she's in the program, that's not the certification she's going through the program for. So then she has to wait until they can tell her, you're certified, now you can take this test.
So another thing is once she's in a program for something else and she has a probation or intern certificate or certification in that area, she can't be held on a district permit, and she has to actually test in the other area. So you have basically it's going to boil down to, it sounds like she's going to have to test in family consumer science.
Okay.
Concur.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ford. And then somebody posted in there, Meredith, that you might want to look at your, Lisa Harrison said that charters aren't eligible for District of Innovations because basically they already are, and it should be in your charter application. So you might want to look at your district charter application and see what the teacher requirements are in there.
Okay.
Thank you, Lisa, for that.
And if our requirements say that they don't have to be certified, can we still receive funding then for her as the teacher?
It won't say it exactly like that. It's going to say something like CTE teachers may be certified based on district.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to say something funny, but
I just don't want to get in trouble.
So giving a yes, you giving a yes or no is next to impossible without saying all this stuff.
I would, if I were you, I would contact TEA. They were great help to me when I had some certification issues, and they'll talk to your HR if you need them to. So that's where I would go. They're great.
Okay.
Just get your charter application, and that's the first thing they're going to ask for.
Okay.
Anyone else? Great question. Thanks, Meredith.
Thank y'all.
Miles Van asked a question earlier about how do you code the 4, 5, 6, and 7s? Well, of course, that's already they're coded automatically, and I'm putting a list of those codings, and of course, all of you have it, but I'm putting a link to that code table for 4, 5, 6s, and 7s right there. And then a lot of you have been looking at your reports that come back that have been showing whether how many students are 4s, how many students are 5s, how many students are 6s and 7s. The first thing I would look on there in my report is to make sure that I didn't have any freshmen that were 6s and 7s. If you have if it's showing you have a 9th grader that's a completer, you have a class or multiple classes coded wrong. So it's impossible. You might want to do some random checks, of 3, 5, 10, depending on the size of your district, random checks on students to make sure that your calculation matches the student. But the main thing I would look for is to make sure that I didn't have any freshmen showing up as 6s or 7s, because that's telling you that your service IDs are wrong somewhere.
Mark, we had an issue with ours because our 8th graders that took a CTE high school credit class did not get any code whatsoever.
Well, it depends on they didn't get any code?
No. And then when I looked in our on data thing, they told, and Debbie Weiland said they think it's because there was no course completion.
but I'm getting blank looks here in the district.
Yeah, no, that very well could be because it's all based on completion. Sixes, you guys help me, but I think sixes and sevens, you have to complete and pass, but 4, 5, 4s and 5s is just completion. And so it could be the fact that they just didn't complete the course.
Yeah, none of them got it. And then when I looked in the system, it looks like they did not do any course completion for any 8th graders.
Well, it very well could be your service ID number. And if you want to email me or call me or something, we need to look at the specific courses. Do you know off the top of your head what the specific course was?
It was Principal of Human Services, PHS.
And you did you double check the service ID code, the 130?
Yeah, and what I'm seeing when I look in our system is none of the kids 8th grade and below got course completion in our Skyward system.
Well, I'm not sure. They should have, once they completed that first credit, they should have at least been a 5.
So do you know how course completion is assigned or issued? Is that something?
It comes from your student information management system, and it could have been maybe, when did you pull it, in the fall? Or did
we got that updated file from July 27th. And neither one of them had it. And then we've submitted a help ticket, and I listed all the students with the ID number for the course and this ID numbers for the kids, and we haven't heard anything.
Are you using Skyward? What's your student information management system?
Skyward.
Has anyone else here using Skyward had that issue? Ms. Keller, if you want to contact me with an email or phone or whatever, I'll certainly, and it could be just a mechanical error, but it's good that you caught it now. Did your completers look right?
Yeah, the high school looked fine.
Yeah.
It just looks to me that, like, I don't think course completions were assigned for anyone below high school level in our Skyward system.
It could be even something as small as they had the service ID code in there correct, but then didn't put anything in the credit box. And so it could be one of about 10 things. And junior highs, you know, the people that they're not always as attuned to filling out that Skyward Texas specific box as the high school folks are, because it doesn't come into play that often.
Okay, I'll reach out.
Thank you, ma'am. Sorry we couldn't get that one. If some other Skyward people had an issue, maybe we could have ran it down, but we need some of you other guys having issues with Skyward.
Heading's not that easy, but Grammarly can help.
Okay,
Correct. But it's
does anyone know what the name of that tweets code report is? I had it pulled up a minute ago. There it is right there. PDM 3404-002. Robin, I should have known that it would be Miss Nava had that, because I'm always telling you what an overachiever she is. Thank you very much. Okay, what other topics? We're getting about 4 minutes left, and we certainly don't want to leave any stone unturned that needs to be flipped over today. Jason, how are things in Louisville?
Just living the dream. We're about to go through an inventory audit, self-imposed inventory audit. So prayers are welcome.
Well, if your inventory's messed up, I have some bad news, because you're going to have the only inventory on here that's messed up.
I believe that.
And textbooks. Make sure you do your textbook inventory too.
Mark, Senate Bill 15 was a big discussion topic this morning in my meeting with my regional leaders, and I saw more than one person has kind of put it in the chat. Robin mentioned it.
Thanks, Lisa. I missed that in the chat. Would you mind sharing that real quick if you don't mind? Do you mind?
Well, it was Robin that responded. So Senate Bill 15 hit pass. It has not, it's got to be signed by the governor yet, but it brings back remote instruction. It is my understanding that it caps it at 10% of your population. It can't be the same teacher that's teaching face-to-face, that's teaching virtually. But a whole lot of leaders in my region, their superintendents and cabinet were all, the discussions on how are we going to handle it has begun. And trying to decide how that may affect CTE.
Lisa, that is as needed. That was funded as needed, correct? Contingent. They haven't necessarily approved remote learning yet.
Robin, it got signed, it approved today or yesterday, right?
It has passed, but you're right. It's got some quirky things in it, like the teacher cannot be required to teach both an in-person and remote class. So there's some rulemaking or some guidance that we're going to need on SB 15.
And Lisa, the remote conferencing, which it may be different than remote learning, because I'm saying it's two different things because they use different language, but
yeah.
But the remote conferencing, the guidelines are up on the COVID website.
Yeah, but that's only for up to a maximum of 20 days. This is basically like last year where the kids can go virtual. It's new this week.
Okay, very good.
So I want to follow up on Richard's question about the House debating SB 3. So I just did a cursory glance of the bill. And I heard back from another sleuth at the Capitol that it basically prohibits credit for students serving in internships for entities that do political lobbying, except for students in PTech. Samsung can have lobbyists, American Airlines can have lobbyists, and our students enrolled in PTech can go work for those companies. And there is no issue at all. They just can't have a PTech program where they're actually taught how to lobby.
That makes sense when you describe it that way. Anyone else? It's 3:30, so we want to respect your time and get you off here, but we also don't want to leave a topic hanging out there that someone wants to discuss. So this is last call. Okay, fantastic. Again, it was great seeing everyone at conference, and thank you all for being here. We had 125, Robin, if you're keeping the notes that made it. So that's a fantastic number, and we're going to keep these going monthly. And thank you guys, and have a great school year, and thank you for all you do. We'll see you next month.